If you're enjoying the Health Geeks Book Club podcast, we'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, rating, or review, whichever your preferred podcatcher platform allows.
This edition of our podcast is brought to you by 360 Health and Well Balanced Nutrition.
Welcome to the Health Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
I am feeling so very proud. Today we are wrapping up our first year of podcasting, Eleanor.
Well, Kristen, I think a pat on the back is deserved. Bump, bump. Yay!
You are listening to our 45th episode
Yippee!
Of the Health Geeks Book Club podcast. And
Thank you
just reflecting back on when we decided to start this, it's super cool that it's gotten this far and been a really fun experience.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a dream of mine. And I did not know Tim, but you did know Tim. And so now we have, Tim in the mix with us, and we're having a wonderful opportunity here.
Our producer that likes to chime in and talk with us about books.
Do I bother you when I do that?
No, sir.
Nope.
Okay.
So I've never read this many books in 1 year, ever.
And I'm happy to have introduced you to that idea.
So I used to talk about the four tendencies by Gretchen Rubin with my clients about how a lot of us need accountability. We're obligers. And when I was in my internship for dietetics, I was like the rock stars, turning in my assignments. And it was because I had that accountability and there's reason to. And I was always like reading up on, I had to see this patient with this disease, so now I'm going to read up on it and see what it is.
Right.
But then when I graduated, I was still having that interest of reading, but no one to bounce it off of or no accountability to say, hey, this is what I know. So this podcast has made it possible for me to read and finish and take in all the information from these books like I actually want to.
Yeah, and that was my dilemma. I love reading these titles, and very few of my friends do. So I just didn't have anybody to talk to about it. And it's much more fun if you're reading and getting these ideas to play with them. And so you're my idea playmate. Yeah. And I have really appreciated your willingness to join me in conversation.
And I've loved to talk with you about these concepts. And I really appreciate your wisdom and the science background that you bring to it. And, I hope you guys out there, your listeners, have enjoyed us delving into these topics, because I hear from a lot of you that you don't particularly like to read these health and wellness books, but you like to take bits of the information.
Yeah, so you're interested in the topics that we're interested in,
absolutely,
but may not have the time or inclination to get the books and, flip those pages like we were doing.
Yeah, 26 books is a lot to read, so we'll reread them for you and talk about them. And you know what? We've got some cool plans coming up next year, and maybe you can read along with us for some of the topics that you are particularly interested in.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've kind of done in reflecting over this year is we both are
wellness advocates.
Exactly. And so we've looked at the dimensions of wellness in some sort of an organized way, and there are different perspectives on wellness, like emotional wellness and occupational wellness, environmental wellness, and so on and so forth. And so we kind of looked at our titles to see, are we like just biased to one type of wellness, And we really were surprised that our reading took us on a pretty good turn of this circle. We started off back in February, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think our first book was Think Like a Monk.
Yes.
Or it was one of the first ones. And, that kind of fell into the spiritual wellness area for me as I was thinking about the content of that book. And then we found a book halfway through the year called Forest Bathing. And that also had a sort of a spiritual feeling to me as we were reading it. So, we tipped into the spiritual wellness a little bit there. And then, of course, with our educations and...
Forest Bathing was episode number 20, by the way.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah, it was a little bit further down the road.
That's a popular one. So if you haven't
Oh,
listened
yeah.
to that, go back.
Yes. And since, as I was saying, we both kind of have a science edge to us professionally, we're a little heavy there in the physical wellness, and we read a book called Spark. And I loved Spark. I want to go back and read it again and take some more wisdom from that. But that's about exercise, and how movement is important to our health. And so many of what we're having fun with when we read a book and they reference a book we've already read, we go, yeah, we're on the same
Feels
thing
like
with
we're
it.
on the inside of all these authors.
And I'm going to say these as we go when I know. Spark was episode number 3.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I want to go back and read that one because it was such a gem.
Yeah, it was foundational, I think, for why it is critical if you're not doing exercise, and everybody knows about it now. If you don't know, read that book. It's important. Okay, then the switch. There's so many people that are into keto diets and intermittent fasting, and what do you do and not do? Well, anyway, this is an underpinning for that. It was a fascinating read. I discovered some things I had not bumped into before. And I liked it. And then the end of food allergy. We had, people who can't eat peanuts anymore. And we have some hopeful ideas about immunotherapy and desensitization and maybe helping these people return to a more normal eating pattern. Really another hopeful book as well.
Absolutely.
And,
which one was that one?
The end of food allergy.
Okay, the switch was number 5.
Okay. There's some other ones in the physical wellness that we liked too.
End of food allergy was number 27.
Okay.
So one of my favorites was Healthy Gut, Healthy You, also in the physical realm, very related to my field of nutrition as a dietitian.
16, 17, and 18. That was
yeah,
a
we
3-parter.
That was it was such a easy to read, but such an important book with lots of good concepts.
It's such new. I mean, we're just now finding out about how many bacteria and other things live with us. So we're not really all human. We are a community, and I love the concept. I'm an ecologist.
Yes. Then we read Your Body in Balance, which was
about hormones, right?
Yeah, bringing in hormones to the conversation and how particularly plants can help us balance our hormones.
Yeah, and the signaling that goes on between systems that keeps us healthy. And we're seeing that referenced, again and again.
Yeah, I love how these concepts are woven through all the books that we read.
Number 7 for Your Body in Balance.
And then lastly, in the physical realm, we read Quench about hydration.
Number 9.
Did not like that book.
That one was an interesting one. So then we get into a little more of the social realm and how important relationships. Yes, thank you. And the Blue Zone solution was a little bit about diet, but about how mostly centenarians are living their lives in relationships and
the culture, in the context of their cultures, and how there is some similarity for this group of healthy agers between these different cultures. I mean, the same principles almost.
Episode 11.
Go back and listen to that one. I love the Blue Zone. Such a happy, hopeful read.
It is. It's fun because of the cultures.
And the stories.
Yes.
Yes. Then you get into. Oh, did I mention the telomere effect?
No, you did not.
Number 8.
Yeah.
So the one we most recently talked about, or here in the last couple episodes, The Secret Life of Fat. I think that one is like the telomere effect. Telomere? Telomere.
Yeah.
I'll never say it right the first time. Anyway.
Like I said, you can correct me all you need to. Hey, listeners out there, I think you know.
But I think they were similar in that they kind of told us stories and took us on a journey of how we've learned things through time.
The discovery process.
The discovery process of research. Those were fun reads in that way.
and influential in changing the way we think about things.
Absolutely.
So over in the intellectual area, that was kind of a tricky one for me to really say, did we read any intellectual books? And I'm thinking, my goodness, we're reading. Isn't that intellectual?
Yes.
Yeah, we're brainwashing there. So the first book we looked at was Brainwash, or one of the first ones, about how to detox your brain from things that are, what you put in, garbage out, that kind of an idea, and just looking at healthy brains. How do we take care of our brain?
Looking at the things that we interact with every day and how they change and become addicting in a sense.
Episode 28 and 29.
Yeah, we like that enough to do too. Spark. I had that over in the physical one as well, but it was also over in the intellectual one because of the benefits of exercise to brain health and taking care of your brain. So if you think you're doing it for your muscles and your heart, guess what? It's really important for your brain.
I think I liked that one so much as a dietitian who, with so much awareness of the wellness industry, how exercise is seen as the way to lose weight.
Yes.
And this book is like,
the benefits.
Stop looking at it as a weight loss tool. It is so much more.
It's wellness.
It's wellness, and we all need to do it.
Yeah. Then the Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you have not read that book, I don't know how you've missed it, because boy, do I see it referenced in all sorts of disciplines, and not just in the wellness literature. It's out there in the business literature and education, so on and so forth. But
bass player videos. I saw it in a bass player video.
Did you?
Yeah. And that's episode 31.
How about that? So you need some familiarity with Atomic Habit for sure. And then we loved, because we had our first guest on the science behind tapping. That was a first for us, and now we're kind of thinking we like inviting people into our conversation. So next year, hopefully you'll see more of that. Not every episode, but we will have some guests. Anyway, the science behind tapping is this really bizarre thing. I mean, the woo-hoo science, we were saying this sounds so out left field, and yet it works. And it is a fascinating technique that we loved learning about.
Yes, and it has transformed me because I use it in my personal life and now with clients. So I'm super grateful for our guest Cyrus and that book and our conversations about it, because it's been transformative.
Yeah, and it's such a simple thing. It's like brushing your teeth almost, and exercising and eating. Yeah, tap. It's a good thing to do.
Episode 36 and 37.
2 episodes. There we go. And then the willpower instinct in that intellectual group, because that's sort of like mind over matter type thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that we are kind of programmed. It's an instinct, and we can develop it. And we can become willpower scientists.
That's right. We can train our willpower muscle. It's so enlightening. That one is a really good listen and a good read.
So what about
episode 32?
What about the emotional health? Have we hit any books on the emotional health?
Oh, yes. Our emotions are super important. And we did actually 4 on that topic. What happened to you?
Oh, Oprah and Bruce Perry. Yes, I loved meeting Bruce Perry. I had known about Oprah, but now I know about him.
It was such a good conversation to listen into. That's what it felt like.
And an interesting book, the way they structured it in that very, blue ink, black ink conversation.
Yes.
It was so different than the other books we've looked at.
Episode 40.
Yeah, because, forest bathing was a different book. It was pictures and white space and just subtle, beautiful concepts.
Yeah,
so those 2 books
coffee book table that you look at over and over
but
again.
Even more than that, because it speaks to you.
True. So what happened to you is really important, I think, for all of us to read, to understand.
You mean what's wrong with you?
No, we can't think what's wrong with you. It's what happened to you.
That's right.
And understanding trauma and being trauma informed in all we do, I think, is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also could put willpower instinct in the emotional part, because there's that connection to it. Breath. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Good book.
Good book. Interesting. I had some issues with that and some interesting conversations with my husband around it.
24.
Yeah, but those crazy experiments they did where they taped their nose shut and their mouth and they went on. Oh, it was kind of an interest. I liked reading that book.
It was a wild ride.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff, such a good one. Really important for our emotional wellness to learn self-compassion, especially in this realm of habit change and becoming our best selves. It's a journey that if we don't have that self-compassion on, it's almost doomed to fail and just going to be a lot harder.
Right.
Episode 21.
Mm. And then finally, when we look at environmental health, which, I'm Eleanor at 360health4u.com. And one of the things that I try to help my clients and customers understand is your exposures are important. You need to monitor and see what you're exposing yourself to. So the forest bathing book, again, kind of, these books don't fit into a specific category. They can have more influence. And I think that one directed us to go out into our environment, our natural world, and sit and reflect and see what your senses tell you and calm you. The telomere effect as well had to do with exposures and what those environmental exposures in particular, what they do to your chromosomes, down at the cellular level, things are changing because of these exposures. And the cancer code, what have we been thinking about cancer and how are cancers, growing so much in our societies? Is it because of exposures? And there's some evidence that maybe it is. And the food fix, which episode was that? Because we did
Episode 23 was the cancer code.
Okay.
Food fix.
How many?
There was, I think, 3 of the food fix.
We couldn't stop talking about that one.
Episode 12, 13, and 14.
Right. Mark Hyman, is that who wrote that one? And so he just launched into a whole systems conversation about the food, growing, agriculture, big pharma, big government, and he took them all on in that book. It was fascinating read. It was provocative as heck.
And I could even go back and read it because it was so heavy in a sense that some of the things didn't stick with me. And actually, for dietitians, you can take a quiz and earn continuing education for that book. So I might go back and do that.
My favorite,
yes,
that you guys covered was essentialism.
That was a really good one.
Because, I have a hard time either getting motivated or being able to turn around and say, cutting losses, saying no. I have a hard time with that. And it was, and I even commented.
Mm-hmm.
I said, everybody needs to hear this episode.
Yeah.
Because before it even came out, because it stuck with me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, you might want the boundaries book too then.
Yeah.
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 I think in the same way that self-compassion is really important in terms of, whole health and wellness, so is essentialism. And along those lines, the lazy genius way, it's just kind of how do we take all of this science and this information and internalize it to something that's going to work for us and what matters to us. And I think both of those books are really important for helping you do that.
And I think one of the things that I'm learning is a lot of the messages in many of these books are the same message. They're just underpinned from different perspectives, like we were talking about from this wellness wheel. But the danger I can see is that we become so obsessed with getting it right and doing the right things that each of these different authors is telling us that we complicate our world rather than simplify it. And we know that just keeping things in perspective, but getting those habits down based on this reading could make it simple and could make your life richer and could make it more enjoyable and make it longer lasting. So I'm excited about what we might get into next year. Do you have some ideas about books that we might be reading next year?
I do. And before I say that, though, I just think to piggyback off of what you just said, I think I'm so proud of this podcast because it can be easy for us humans to maybe pick up one book here or there and then not have this well-rounded perspective. And then we're kind of, like you said, now we think of this one perspective as a religion of what we want to do and what we should do or whatever.
That shoulding.
That shoulding on ourselves. We shouldn't should on ourselves.
No, that self-compassion book told us that, right?
Yes. So, yeah, it makes my heart happy that we're able to bring these conversations to you all and to bring this wide realm of wellness and all these different perspectives so that you can kind of see the underpinnings, the commonality, and how to make it your own in practice. Okay, so having said that, next year, with the same wellness wheel in mind, we've chosen some fun things to hone in on. Emotionally, we will tap into the High Five Habit by Mel Robbins and a Brene Brown book.
Ooh,
I love Brene Brown.
These authors are good.
Yes.
Mel Robbins is such an energy.
Yeah, a motivational speaker. She
5-second rule. Good.
She speaks to me. She also has, lets it be known that she has ADHD.
Yeah, it's so obvious when you watch her.
And so, like, oh yeah, I can relate.
I get it.
Yeah. What else? Oh, so there's earthing.
Yes.
In the environmental realm that I think is a good way to kind of circle back to the forest bathing concept. I'm excited to see what earthing has to say. And then a book all about our nose and how the environment around us, the smells and everything can affect us.
Yeah, so down in the biology area, which is where I love to live, because that's one of my the study of life. There's nothing better. We're going to look at mitochondria because there's a whole bunch of stuff coming out now about how important our mitochondria are. That is a subcellular organelle, in case you don't know about mitochondria yet. We're going to introduce you to it.
Have that conversation with you.
Yes, and then
welcome to your mitochondria.
Yes, sir. And then we may change some of these titles. This is just sort of what we're looking at right now. And then the immune system. There's a fabulous book on the immune system that we cannot wait to get into. And then I've twisted Kristen's arm to read The Body. And
did we?
Yeah, maybe. She sort of said she would. Maybe not.
And we did decide to read Supersized Lies by Robert J. Davis as well.
Yeah, and we might do that early next year because I'm kind of excited about checking that one out. The other ones that we were talking about, something in the spiritual domain, we were thinking there's a lot of discussion about enneagrams and identifying yourself according to some of these color codes, or all this inventory that we're doing, Myers-Briggs and INQs. What are we going to do with that? So we thought we might explore something in that realm. Love languages, did I mention that? And we have an author here locally that's pretty big in the love language industry because I think he started the whole thing, Paul White.
Yeah, that is pretty much him.
Yeah, it's him. So we were seeing what we can do with that book maybe. And then something in the intellectual area, we thought maybe some mind-altering, plant-based stuff could be interesting. So Michael Pollan, who's written so many wonderful books, has written This Is Your Mind on Plants. So we're considering that. But we also would take some suggestions from you guys out there listening to us. If there's something that you would like to point us towards, or if you've written a book of your own and would like us to read it, we might encounter that idea.
Yeah, put that in the comments, find us on social media, or email us individually and let us know. Don't forget to leave us a rating and a review. It really helps us continue to do what we do and
grow this podcast.
Will propel us into the next year, and we're feeling super grateful for all you listeners.
Amen. And so why were you laughing, Tim?
I don't know.
Mind altering?
Yeah, mind altering, plant based. I'm like, we're going to have edibles on this show. So, if they're going to email, what do they email you?
Email Kristen Norton. My email is Kristen, Kristen, at wellbalancednutrition.com.
And if you want to reach out to me, you can go to 360healthforyou.com, and there's a contact form there for you, and you can put your what your ideas are, put them right in there for me.
Perfect.
And you know what? If you want to email me just for S's and G's, it's tim@thelessdesirables.com.
There you go.
Love it.
Well, kids, that may be a wrap, and I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful holiday season, and we're looking forward to 2022 and what we can read and learn.
So you won't be here in January, right?
Well, we might be taking a little bit of a break.
Yeah, we're going to have something like a semester or a season next year.
Yeah.
So we'll be back.
Because part of our wellness planning is that we do need to restore ourselves. And so Kristen and I are taking this stuff literally, and we're going to give Tim a little bit of a break too.
And, do some more
Planning.
personal reading and light reading outside of these books. But we'll be back in February, and we will talk with y'all then.
Yeah, it'll be the love month. Ooh.
Well, I'm Kristen Norton with Well Balanced Nutrition. Visit us at wellbalancednutrition.com, and you can get set up for a free clarity call and learn more about our one-on-one nutrition and wellness coaching.
And if you're interested in natural wellness products of the highest quality, I stand behind them. My name is Eleanor at 360health4u.com. Love talking to people and helping make healthy happen in your life.
And opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the express written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.